Well, hello there, everyone, and a Merry Valentine's Day to you as well. As I'm sure you know, love is in the air today, and as such, I feel the need to share it as well. And for you, a deck profile. The most profound method of my love known to anyone. And what deck will it be this time? Why, one of my own creation, of course. That deck I dub STD. Shown by the little virus thing here. Now, I'm sure that seems like an odd method to show love on such a wondrous day as this, but let's not kid ourselves. Most love takes place in the bedroom, and it usually ends with such a ugly thing. But I digress. Let's go ahead and get on with this, my STD deck profile. Okay, so enough of that silliness. In all seriousness, so this is a unique deck idea that I myself came up with, so if anyone else claims that they made this, they are liars, and this is solely my idea. Similar to a hat deck, an STD deck is just an acronym for the three archetypes that make it up. In this case, those being Shadalls, Trap Tricks, and Different Dimension. I know it's a little bit weird, but truth be told, I didn't even plan on doing that. I just really wanted to make a Shadall Trap Tricks deck, and happened to realize if I threw in a D archetype, then I could actually have an STD deck. And it just seemed like a funny idea, and so I did it. And it actually ended up working out really, really well. But I digress. Enough with that. Let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Starting off, we have the 2 copies of Shadal Falco. Now, for those of you who don't know how Shadalls work, they have 2 effects. The first is a flip effect that goes off, well, obviously, when they're flipped. And the second one is an effect that goes off when they are sent to the graveyard by card effect. Doesn't matter from where, just as long as a card effect sends them, they're good. The only catch is you can only activate one of these effects per turn, so you can't send it to the graveyard and then flip another one face up or something like that to get its effect, or vice versa. It doesn't work that way. You have to use one of each per turn. Now, in the case of Falco, his flip effect says that you can special summon one Shadal monster from your graveyard in face-down defense mode. So, you can just prime one of your already used Shadalls for its flip effect again, or if you send it to the graveyard by card effect, it special summons itself in face-down defense position. Now, that may not seem all that great, but again, this is your monster reborn, so he's pretty good with that. Also, fun fact, he's a tuner monster. So this does provide some synchro options for the deck. Not the most common thing since Shadalls are ultimately still a fusion-based archetype, but hey, options. Next up, we have 3 copies of Shadal Hedgehog. This guy is the searcher of the entire deck, at least the Shadal aspect of it. When he is flipped, you can search one Shadal spell trap card from your deck and add it to your hand. And then if he's sent to the graveyard by card effect, then he can search out a Shadal monster, except himself, obviously. So this can let you get any of your Shadal fusion cards, get you Shadal core, or just by sending him, you can search out any of the other Shadal monsters, including, but not limited to, one of the 2 copies of Shadal Squamata. This is where the deck starts to get a little bit of main deck muscle, since Squamata is an 1800 attacker. But on top of that, he also has the effect of that when he is flipped, you can target one monster on the field and destroy it. Now, if he's sent from the field to the graveyard, he has a very different effect, where he sends an additional Shadal as a card. Hold on. Yeah, Shadal card from the deck to the graveyard. So that can trigger any of their other sending effects. So if you say fuse Shadal Squamata into something, Squamata's effect then goes off. You can send Hedgehog to the graveyard, and then Hedgehog's effect will activate, letting you search out something else. So Squamata's sending effect is actually pretty good for just chaining a bunch of stuff together. I'll get into some more things that he can do, since pretty much every card in this deck has some sort of a graveyard-based effect. Next up we have Shadal Dragon, 2 copies of him. This is one of many MSTs in the deck, in that when first of all, when he's flipped, he can basically compulse an opponent's monster. Or, I'm sorry, an opponent's card. Or, actually, no, yeah, it's just an opponent's card. On top of being 1900 beater, and then if he's sent, he can pop 1 spell and trap card on the field. So, again, he's one of the MSTs of the deck. I don't actually run MST just because I have so many other substitutes for it. It just feels pointless. And to round up the Shadal lineup, I have my 1 copy of Shadal Beast. Since he's level 5, I don't prefer to run too many of him, just because he's somewhat inconsistent, but this is your draw power of the deck. When he's flipped, you draw 2 cards and then discard 1, which can also help you get off their sent to the graveyard effects, and then if he's sent, you just draw a card. But still not overall a bad thing, especially since you can recycle his effects so many times with Falco. It's hilarious. And on top of just being a 22 beater, he's just overall a pretty decent card. That rounds up the Shadal aspect of the monster count. Next up, we move on to the T, Trap Tricks. This one's going to be pretty straightforward. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on this. 3 copies of Trap Tricks Murmelio, or however the hell you pronounce it. I honestly have no idea. Trap Tricks also, for the most part, have a couple of effects. Most of them are the same. They're all unaffected by whole normal trap cards, so you cannot trap hole, bottomless, anything to any Trap Tricks monster. When this card is normal summoned, you can add 1 whole normal trap card from your deck to your hand, so good little searcher. And like I said with Dragon, this card also serves as an MST, because when it is special summoned, you can target 1 spell trap card your opponent controls and destroy it. So, combining Murmelio with the 2 dragons, that's 5 different MSTs so far. So, you see now why I don't feel the need to do any more than that. And trust me, getting off their effects are not hard. I can special summon Murmelio pretty easily. Main method I do it, my 3 copies of Trap Tricks Dianea, of course. Dianea, similar to Murmelio, is also immune to whole normal trap cards. They all are. And when she is normal summoned, you can target 1 Trap Tricks monster in your graveyard and then special summon it. So you can either get Murmelio and pop a back row, or you can grab another Dianea that you might have used to get off her other effect, which lets you get one whole normal trap card in your graveyard and then reset it on your side of the field. However, it is destroyed during your opponent's next end phase. And of course, both of them can only use 1 of these effects per turn. Good luck using both in the first place anyway. But the fun thing about Dianea is that she actually opens up a lot of really cool Xyz plays, primarily with only with rank 4 really, but there's a lot of diverse rank 4s in the game, so it's not like that's really an issue. As I said, that pretty much rounds up the Trap Tricks, not a whole lot to them. And finally, the kind of random sporadic addition to the deck, the different dimension cards. Starting off, I have 2 copies of DD Sprite. This is just basically a level 1 tuner, but its effect is that you can special summon this card from your hand by removing from play a face-up monster you control. And if you do, the remove from play monster special summons itself back during your next standby phase. Normally not that great, however, if you were to use Dianea's effect and get back any other Trap Tricks monster, you could actually use DD Sprite's effect in order to banish 1 of the Trap Tricks. It'll get special summoned next turn, and then you can make a quick 5-star synchro play. Not the most commonly used thing. Mostly it just serves to be a light monster, so I have ample room to make constructs. Within the same vein, I also run 3 copies of DD Warrior Lady. This card serves a much bigger purpose than Sprite, though. Tongue-tied today. After damage calculation, when this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish that monster and this one. So a very nice little way of getting rid of problem monsters. Admittedly, you're going to take a little bit of damage doing it, but hey, I mean, if it's what you need to do to get rid of Leo or something, then, just gotta take the hit. Plus, again, it's a light monster, so that makes for more construct targets. These are the only DD monsters I run, and as you can see, they're all light monsters, so all my DDs are construct material. Pretty helpful. That's actually it for the monster lineup. Not too much, primarily Shadal's. It's kind of what the deck was intended to be anyway. Alright, moving on to the spell lineup. Just a fair warning, this one, for anyone who has played Shadal's, this is going to confuse the ever-living hell out of everyone. But I run 1 copy of Shadal Fusion. Now I know what you're all saying, what the hell's wrong with you? Why would you do something like that? You're supposed to run 3 of these. I know, I side the other 2. The reason for that is I don't play competitively a lot. I'm mostly just playing with my friends, and I don't want to have to main deck something that I can only get the real benefit from if my opponent has special summoned a monster. Now, I get it. Special summoning is like the most common occurrence ever. If something from the extra deck is not on the field turn 1, something's probably gone horribly, horribly wrong for you. But I'd rather not run 3 copies of what's essentially a polymerization, except under certain circumstances. I mean, there are some decks that don't rely on the extra deck at all. I mean, just look at Infernoids, Monarchs. They're getting a lot of new support, so they're kind of a thing. And as of recently, Yosenju, they can use extra deck, but none of those decks really need to. So, just in case I come across something like that, I don't want just 3 basic polys. I'd rather have something a little bit more. What is that something more? 3 El Shaddoll Fusions. I personally prefer El Shaddoll Fusion a lot more. And the reason for that is because it's a quick play. So I don't really feel like I need to explain what either one of these things really do that much, just because they're fusion cards. Most people know how fusion works. With these, you can only activate 1 per turn. Oh, right, I should probably explain for the people who don't know how Shaddolls work. The main gimmick behind Shaddoll Fusion is that if your opponent has a monster from their extra deck that was special summoned there from the field, you can use monsters from your deck as fusion material, which I'll admit is good, and I honestly feel like this card should be hit in some way. Hopefully it will, even though I run the deck, but to me, El Shaddoll has just always been a better option, because you can just poke with your stuff, activate Shaddoll Fusion during the battle phase, get out something else, and then poke again. It's just a really solid strategy, and personally I feel like it's one that's worth looking into. I don't care that much for Nef Shaddoll Fusion, just because the other non-3 that I primarily run this deck aren't really all that worth it. Plus I have core, so I can make do with that. Moving on, I have my 1-ofs. 1 Dark Hole, because Raigekis are expensive, and as I said, I don't play competitively, so I don't care as much. 1 Soul Charge, because, well, Soul Charge. 1 Snatch Steal, because Konami makes hilariously bad decisions with ban lists. And 1 Book of Moon, because this is like your Swiss Army knife of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Just great for any situation. And that's actually my entire spell lineup. Not a whole lot, I know, but it gets the job done. Now finally moving on to traps. As I said with the spell cards, this first one may be a little confusing, but this is for an entirely different reason. I run 2 copies of Deck Devastation Virus. Not gonna lie, this is actually mostly just a gimmick card, just because, again, it's called an STD deck, and I think a virus card is hilarious for the sake of running that. There are targets for it in the form of Shaddoll Beast and El Shaddoll Winda. However, I almost never get the chance to use them, and if I do, I'd probably be minusing like a madman. So, I'm probably not going to keep this in here, but I don't know what to take in place of it. If anyone has any suggestions, please let me know in the comments, and please don't just say Shaddoll Fusions. Like I say, I side the other 2, and that's my own personal reasons, but if you have any idea on something else I could run in place of this other than Shaddoll Fusion or Nef Shaddoll Fusion, please let me know. I would really do need to move on this card. The joke was funny at first, but it's kind of gotten stale. Next up, I have 2 Shaddoll Cores. Shaddoll Core is a fun little card, actually, because the way it works is that when you activate it, it special summons itself as a monster. Dark, level 9, 1450 attack, and 1950 defense. A little odd, but whatever. And the main thing with it is that if you're using it for a fusion for a Shaddoll Fusion monster, it can be counted as any attribute that you need it to. On top of just being a Shaddoll monster as well, so you can do that. But another fun effect of this is that if it's sent to the graveyard, yes, these cards do that too, you can add 1 Shaddoll card from your, one Shaddoll spell trap card from your graveyard to your hand other than Shaddoll Core. So you can use it to recycle your Shaddoll Fusions and your El Shaddoll Fusions. And it does pretty well with that. I can get a pretty consistent loop going with that, and I can just spam my fusions all day. It's actually pretty funny. That's pretty much it for the Shaddoll aspect of it, though. Now moving on to all the things that Murmillo can search out. 2 copies of Trap Hole. Why Trap Hole? Because I can, and no one ever sees it coming. It is infinitely satisfying to Trap Hole someone and just look at their face as they realize they got hit by an old school card and it actually stopped them. Obvious bottomless is obvious. And I also run 2 copies of Void Trap Hole. Those who don't know how this one works, it only works when your opponent special summons a monster with 2,000 or more attack. You can negate the effects of one of said destroyed monsters with 2,000 or more attack and destroy it. So if your opponent feels like doing something like bringing out a Light Pulsar, you can just say no. Just something like that. Just first example that popped in my head. It's just a good card, as with the other trap holes, to just shut down your opponent. And round out the trap lineup, I have 1 Compulse, because Compulse, and 1 Torrential Tribute, because, well, Torrential Tribute. And that's pretty much it for the main deck. Again, let me know what you guys think about that. If you have any suggestions for something other than Deck Devastation Virus, please let me know. I'm getting kind of sick of that card, honestly. But moving on to the extra deck now. It's only 14 cards, just because I'm still indecisive as to the 15th card. Again, suggestions are always welcome. But starting off, I have 2 copies of Shaddoll Winda. Winda is just an amazing card, a little hilariously broken. Those of you who don't know, must first be special summoned, cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, and then each player can only special summon monsters once per turn, as long as this card is face up on the field. Fun fact, her special summon does not count towards that. So you can special summon Winda, and then bring out something else, which is actually hilarious to do. And then your opponent's kind of stuck. And then finally is an effect that's shared by all else Shaddoll monsters, so all the Shaddoll fusions, is that when they are sent to the graveyard, does not matter how, you can target 1 Shaddoll spell trap card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So it's hilarious recycling power, and like I said, all of the else Shaddoll monsters have that effect. Next up, we got our big beefy in the form of Construct. Construct, unlike well, I should probably have said, sorry, all the Shaddolls require, for their fusions, 1 Shaddoll and then 1 monster that attribute. Winda is dark, Construct is light. Construct mainly uses a beater and to get around those pesky special summon monsters. With 2800 attacks, pretty good. Obviously must first be special summoned by fusion. And then when she is summoned, you can send 1 Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. So getting off those sending effects. And then at the start of the damage step, this card battles a special summon monster, not from the extra deck, just in general special summoned, destroy it. And then, of course, if it's sent, you can re-add a Shaddoll spell trap from your grave. Next up, I have El Shaddoll Shekinaga. I don't know how the hell you say that. This is more of a defensive wall. It requires a Shaddoll and an Earth monster. So obviously, you know, gotta be special summoned by fusion. And then, let's see. When a special summon monster activates its effect, while you have a Shaddoll card in your hand, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. Then, you send 1 Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard. Then you can only do that, you can only use this effect once per turn, and then, of course, base recycling effect. So she's pretty good for just stopping special summon monster effects, so just shutting out red MD is a lot of fun. And it's fun to just sit on a 3000 wall while you build up resources and laugh at your opponent's misery. And then finally, just in case I can, because it's good, why the hell not, El Shaddoll Grista. This one requires a Shaddoll monster and a fire monster, or in this particular build, a Shaddoll monster and a Shaddoll core. So, obvious summoning requirement is obvious at this point. And this one is when an opponent would special summon a monster and you have a Shaddoll card in your hand, you can negate the summon, destroy the card, and then send a Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard. You only do that once per turn, and then recycling effect. That's pretty much how all the El Shaddolls work. I don't run Wendigo because she is honestly not that great, and I don't feel like wasting extra deck space on a monster that's not even worth it. Super Poly was still a thing, I probably would, but no more than 1, and just to take care of wind monsters. But since it's not a thing, and the best I can do with that is just snatch steal something and then go into Wendigo, I'd rather just snatch steal a monster and just keep it, or tribute it for Shaddoll Beast or something like that. Wendigo's not really all that worth it, but that's my El Shaddoll lineup. Moving on to my synchro options, I have 1 Herald of the Arc Light. This to me is just a really fun card because it works kind of like a macro, so if any monster would be sent from the hand or main deck to the graveyard, it's banished instead. And then during either player's turn, when a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, you can tribute this card to negate the activation if you destroy it, and then the last effect isn't relevant because I don't run rituals. But it's just a good way to stall out the opponent, slow them down. It's admittedly really weak, so all you gotta do is just summon any main deck monster you can punch over this thing. But hey, that's why I have the trap holes, right? I run 1 copy of Armades, because Armades is hilarious for the battle phase. Your opponent cannot activate any card effects if this card attacks or is attacked until the end of the damage step. So just a fun little way of getting past back row. And then 1 copy of Goyo Guardian. This one's just if you destroy a opponent's monster by battle and send it to the graveyard, special summon that monster to your side of the field in defense mode. Plus, being just a 6-star synchro with 2800 attack, that's really good. That's actually as good as Construct. And with that special summon effect, I can use that for potential Xyz plays, synchros, maybe if it's an attribute I need, I can use it for a fusion. It's just a really good card for me. That's actually it for the synchro lineup. Not too much, but then again, I only run 2 separate tuner monsters, so I don't have too much for that. And then finally, for my Xyz lineup, I have 1 Fairy King Albervditch. It requires 2 level 4 Earth monsters. Once per turn, you can attach an Xyz material from this card, and all non-Earth monsters currently on the field lose 500 attack and defense. Not that great, I will openly admit, but since my main Xyz engine is through the trap tricks, this is an option, and it helps occasionally. Next up, I run 1 copy of Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. This card, oh baby, this card. This is the greatest thing to come out of the Arc 5 TCG sets so far. For those of you who don't know how this works, you can detach 2 Xyz materials from this card, and he does require 2 to summon, so you only get this effect once. Target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, and its attack becomes half of its current attack, and then this card gains that attack. So if you have, like, say, I don't know, a 5-headed dragon on the field, and you need to just punch through for a game, you can bring out Dark Rebellion. Dark Rebellion's effect will activate, cut that 5-headed down to 25, and then Dark Rebellion will gain that 25 and become 5,000. You're basically turning the tables on it completely, and you can punch through 25. Now, it won't kill it, admittedly, but, I mean, hey, it's 25 free damage, so who's going to complain, really? Next up, I have 1 copy of Castel, because sometimes a card just needs to go right back to the deck where it belongs, and 1 copy of Evolval Chain, because sending cards to the graveyard in this deck is fun, as well as controlling my next draw. So that's it for the deck lineup. Tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. Don't forget to also like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more deck profiles and other sort of videos I may be doing. And until next time, see you guys later.